Rhom, a desolate wasteland of coarse sand and discarded structures. As we first walk in, we are struck by the scorching winds and the never-setting sun. At first glance, we see primitive buildings that litter the landscape, raging inhabitants that wander the sands waste not a moment before crying out and attacking us. This is not a welcoming place. However, it was not always like this. Rhom was once a sprawling world of towering buildings filled with life, populated by a powerful civilization known as the Basha, which was divided into a number of factions. Though they all coexisted to an extent, hostility among the factions was commonplace, and wars broke out on a regular basis. At the head of the societal structure was the Nui, Islan, a spiritual leader to the Basha nations who was believed to be the only one to be able to speak with Rhom's guardian. With this religious title, Islan was the conduit with which the guardian spoke to Rhom. Directly under the Nui were the Akari, a priesthood of devout followers of Islan and his standing. The Akari's main role was to act as record keepers and religious proxies. They also helped play a large role in spreading Islan's influence and control over the people. They were closest to Islan during his reign. The Anointed, also known as the Veer, were constructs forged by Islan and the Akari to hunt down Basha in order to keep a solid peace among the tribes. They were built as unstoppable warriors and enforcers and are used as such to this day. For hundreds of years, the Basha warred among one another. Though many of these conflicts were settled by Islan through the Veer, much unrest sat within the Basha people. With the power of the Guardian and the Veer, Islan united the Basha factions into an uneasy alliance. As a united nation, the Basha made powerful leaps forward, creating new advancements that brought growth and prosperity to Rhom. With the assistance of the Basha, Islan created the Black Sun Gate, a portal which allowed them to access a realm with a powerful dying star that had formed into a black hole. It was dubbed the Black Sun. From this star, Kil-Ur was harvested. Also known as Black Sun Dust, it was an incredibly powerful and versatile resource. With Kil-Ur in hand, the Basha began to produce devastating new technology, most of all in the way of weaponry, armors, and power sources. Kil-Ur became integral to the Basha way of life. Endless infrastructure was built into the core of Rhom itself, miles of subterranean tunnels which were used as research centers and production facilities, all of which was facilitated by the Kil-Ur. At one point, all of Rhom was powered by it. It permeated all of society. Harvesting Kil-Ur was a dangerous process. Many died in the first stages, and so the Veer, once used as hunters and killers of the Basha, became miners and retrievers. To further this end, Advar, an intelligent and prolific weaponsmith, began experimenting with Kil-Ur. He augmented the Veer with pieces of the Black Sun itself. Where other smiths used Kil-Ur as just a power source or as material for their inventions, it was Advar who thought to fuse them together to form something greater. From his work, we see the particle accelerator, which uses Kil-Ur as both casing and projectile. Islan too used the Kil-Ur to further his goals. He forced evolution upon himself, grafting nanotech onto his body as well as integrating artificial organs. The Nui, Islan, became the Undying King, extending his life and his rule indefinitely through this process. For years, Rhom flourished into a marvel of ingenuity and progress. This golden age of prosperity and growth would be short-lived, for through the same gate the Basha had used to harvest the Black Sun, the Root made their way to Rhom. Known as the Gwari to the natives of Rhom, soon after arriving on the planet, the Root followed their usual cycle of conquest and destruction. With this new threat advancing, the Basha tribes put their petty squabbles aside and joined together as one under the direction of Islan. Having focused much of their research on weapons and defenses, the Basha were able to hold back the Root from taking over for 5 long decades. This is known as the 50-Year War. During this time, many legendary weapons such as Worldbreaker were forged by the weaponsmiths of Rhom. Root are relentless, however. Despite the military power the Basha possessed, they realized that the war could not be won with their current method. With that thought in the minds of the collective Basha, Islan made the ultimate choice to stop the Root. Using the Kil-Ur in a massive attack, he brought down the consuming void of the Black Sun upon the land. a massive explosion which purged all things on the surface with irradiated fire, darkness, and death. The cataclysm was brought upon Rhom by the hands of its leader. The roots were removed from the world, and what was left behind was barely a shadow of its former glory. After the cataclysm, the remaining people of Rhom became divided, turning against the self-proclaimed king. Many of the Akari, once faithful priests to Islan, rebelled against their master. They cast him out as a heretic to the people. Having been the ones who best knew Islan's secrets, they believed that it was him who brought the roots. After their revolt, the Akari took their knowledge and fled to the wastelands, gathering much of the remaining Baja people. They became spiritual leaders, and from the irradiated sands of Rhom came the Buri. Within the Buri, two sects emerged. One is the Sul, brutish tribal warriors that inhabit most of the surface world. They hold the belief of proving strength through combat, allowing the tribe to grow and flourish in Rhom's harsh lands. Most Sul participate in the act of self-mutilation, removing limbs or organs and replacing them with weapons in order to reach their ideal form. The second faction is the Kadhi. They are more advanced in thinking than the Sul, smaller in form and quicker as well. Known as those that scavenge leftover technology from before the cataclysm as weapons, they have become feared long-range hunters. Working together, the Akari and the Buri seek to end Islan's rule. After the cataclysm, Islan secluded himself to the Citadel, a massive structure where once the Nui himself communed with the Guardian and led his people. From inside, he commands the Veer to attack and destroy those that would attempt to usurp his throne. Here is where we find the king when we first meet him, and here, if we wish, we mark his final resting place. The question does arise, how exactly did Rhom get invaded by the Root if a Guardian was present? After all, it is said that each world is in danger of the Root, and so each world has a Guardian. We know that Rhom had a Guardian at one point, as their entire religious and social structure is built around it. I believe the answer to this is that there wasn't a Guardian in Rhom, at least there hasn't been one for a long time. When we first meet Islan, he requests that we gather the heart of a beast from a different realm so that we may use it to birth a new Guardian for Rhom. From this we can assume that he knows the Guardian is dead. Being the only one who can speak to it, this would make sense. We also know that the Root can only invade a world if the world's Guardian is missing. This is entirely a theory on my part, but I think what happened was this. From the start of his rule, Islan used his connection to the Guardian in order to position himself in a place of power and rule over his people. We see something strange happen after the cataclysm occurs. The people that once revered him as infallible turn on him. They should have been more devoted than ever. He had after all just saved his people from sure extinction. If only just. His own priests left his side. The reason they did so is because the Akari knew what Islan had done. Two items within the game give us further clues as to this being the case. The first is the Leech Ember Ring. The note on it reads, "The Undying King has sucked the life from this world. It is only just that we take it back." That seemed a bit strange to me. Why say sucked instead of burned or destroyed? It's a reference as if he was siphoning away the life of the planet. In any other reference to the Black Sun and the Cataclysm, it's always referred to as a burning or searing, and has nothing to do with life being drained away. The second item we look at is Islan's band. This one reads, "The Undying's best kept secret slept with the Guardian, but it was not his only secret." This is the item that piqued my interest regarding this theory. What would be the best kept secret of someone who used the Guardian as a ploy to gain power and influence? I think that the secret was that the Guardian was no longer a part of Rhom. Of course, Islan could never allow his followers to figure this out. If that were to happen, then his people would have revolted. With all of the power they had built from the Black Sun, it would have certainly meant Islan's death, and he knew it. I think that Islan slayed the Guardian in order to create the Black Sun and add power to himself, but kept this hidden from his people. The Akari knew it, and so they have risen up in revolution to overthrow the person they call a heretic, a person who, in their eyes, went against the beliefs of their culture. Again, this is just a theory, but in my mind it holds up with what we now know of Rhom and of Remnant. When we are asked to retrieve the beast heart by Island, I believe that he actually wanted it to empower himself further, not to create a new guardian. Whether we follow up with that mission or not, maybe affects the future of Rhom. Regardless of our choices, there is a power and desire rising within the sands of Rhom, one more powerful than even the Black Sun itself. If you want more lore videos on Remnant and other future games, be sure to subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate the support. Also, did you know that I have social media things where I ramble about other lore stuff, theories, and general nonsense? Well, now you do. Links are right here. Thanks for watching. Be sure to check back every Monday for new videos.